You may have a point if you think this didn't get a fair go in my review. I just did. And if you haven't seen that, go check that out. This is the Vanquish Phoenix Portal VS4-10. And the kit build I did, I used the wider front wheel adapters and the narrower rear wheel adapters. So we had a slightly wider track at the front. So to give this thing a fair shake, we're going to actually make both ends narrow, which I think I should have done in the first place. And we'll just see if it makes any difference. And if you want to know whether a wide or narrow front track makes a difference too, because I really do, stick around. Let's do it. The Vanquish Phoenix VS4-10 comes with different width wheel adapters, and I've got the narrow ones on now, but I had the wide ones on the front earlier. Now the track width front and rear is the same. And just as a side note, I did notice the body doesn't sit quite square on the axle, and that would be a function of the panhard link. If that was lengthened, this thing would sit further that way, which it needs to be. The fact that the body doesn't quite sit straight on over the axle is mainly a cosmetic thing, and even some production vehicles like the old 4Runner in the background there are actually the same, not quite straight. So that's on its own no problem, and in fact it's arguably more scale given the body that it's sitting on. Anyway, we've got a narrow track front and rear. That's the only change I've made. So let's see what difference this thing makes over the 6 problem course now over stock. Now remember, we had problem 1, 2, 3 and 5 completed successfully. I'm interested to see if we can do problems 4 and 6. I suspect 6 will be a problem still, but 4 at least, with the narrower front track, we may just have that little bit of traction that we just didn't quite have last time. Anyway, we'll do all 6 just for comparison's sake, and I'll see you on the other side. Let's do it. Okay, problem 1. I may leave the front on 6% for this test for the most part, because none of my problems here really quite need that higher overdrive, especially not when we have the dig, and even just being able to turn the wheels to freewheeling, which I could do now, for example, although that maybe wasn't the best time to do it. The dig actually is now a good thing to use, because we don't want to fall off the rock, but we've just done it. Take 5. Vanquish Phoenix Portal VS4-10, now with matching track front and rear. We had wide and narrow wheel adapters with the kit. I had wide on the front and narrow for the rear in the review. Now it's narrow for both. Guy, just between you and me, this is the 5th attempt. I'm actually struggling more with the narrow front. I really thought I'd made a mistake in that review, but goodness me. This is take 6. Come on. No. Ah, unreal. I'm 6 attempts in on problem 1 and I cannot get it to finish. We got close a couple of times, but it just fell off. I'll play all of the attempts now at a higher speed, because you don't just sit through them all, but suffice to say, 4.65 inch tyres, even with portals, I seem to be getting hung up. I don't know if it's a question of geometry. I mean, no, it is. It's a question of geometry. I don't know precisely what combination of factors on this thing are leading to this, but I'm really struggling with problem 1. Often I'll make attempts with cars, and sometimes it'll take me a few goes just to get it through, because I've got to get used to the vehicle, and every vehicle is a bit different, and sometimes, you know, I'll have a few halting starts and then I'll get smooth and, you know, you see the end product. But In this case, I'll show you the lot. I'm already familiar with it. And I just can't get a line where it's doing it. Anyway, on to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll see how we go. Remembering, we couldn't do 4 and 6 in the review, so we'll do the rest of them as well, just to see, because although it's only one change, it's clearly it's making a big difference. So let's continue with this little experiment. Okay, problem 2. Now in the review, we had to come over to the left here, and then the tires had the traction. Ooh. We're going to roll here. Can't do anything about that. Start them again. Second attempt, problem 2. And I know I need to stay left, but then I'll keep steering to the right. That was probably my mistake before. I turned left just a little too soon. I'll also add, I mentioned this in the review, this just landed on that corner again, this poor vehicle. It's really taking a hiding on this test course of mine. It's funny, you know, I thought this thing would just walk our problems. But you know, there's a degree of chance in all this, and that is chance with the geometry of the car and the length and size of the problems. I had to get that exactly right, and if that front right wheel wasn't there to catch the vehicle, it would have rolled. So we'll make this now, but I would say a few millimeters, if that, of tolerance for error. So that made it look hard, honestly. Problem 3. Another thing worth noting is I can't get this thing back on its wheels just using throttle and steering. Most crawlers can. This thing, I haven't been able to. That's a considerable issue. I'm actually liking this truck less. I like it as an engineering piece, but somehow the sum of its parts just don't add up to a satisfying vehicle on these problems. And it is only on these problems. I think out on the trails, this thing would be an absolute blast. But I can't deny the results. And that's kind of a strength of having consistent problems, because we can test... nope, it's not going to do that. We can test a vehicle on various problems, or we can take the thing out into the trail. And if you take the thing out into the trail, you'll have a great time with it. And you wouldn't know its shortcomings. And I can dislike a rig and yet be wowed by its performance, or in this case, I can actually really want to like it. And I do. I mean, I do like a lot of it, but it's a battle getting this thing over the problems. And again, I'm using the... There we go. Goodness. There we don't go. It's just doing it with great effort. Ay, we're still not up. Okay. Last attempt. I lied. Last attempt. I'm not going to cut anything today. We're just going to watch all of the problems, but I'm going to fast forward through problems 1 and 3 so far. I've just finished 3. I've been unable to finish problems 1 and 3. I doubted my initial read on this when I put wide track on the front and left narrow on the rear, but I think wide may have been the right choice. I can't do 1 and 3 with this truck. And yeah, I doubted myself because they're 4.65 inch tires, but I thought clearance might have been the issue, but there's something about the geometry of this thing. I cannot get it I cannot find a line where it can actually finish either of those problems. And it's not for lack of trying. And this, again, this body's taking an absolute beating at the moment. It's going to break the Lexan all the way through at this rate. And another frustration I have is it's not picking itself up. When a rig's on its side, you can steer down and accelerate, or steer up and reverse, and it'll pull itself back up. Not so with this body. There's just something about its narrowness and its height. I can't get it back on its wheels. So every time it rolls, I've got to pick it up. Small thing, but it'll add up in annoyance. And it's a shame because I really like this machine as a technical creation. It's undeniably a special machine, but for whatever reason, I'm really struggling with getting this thing on onto a successful line on these problems. We're going to try problem 4 now, and we'll see if the more narrow stance is a pro or a con compared to the wider front stance we had. I had kind of started this thinking, oh, we're going to finish everything now. This was just my little mistake, but I don't think it was. I think I was right. Wider at the front, at least, is better. We might need to try a wider in the rear as well. Let's try problem 4. We'll see how we go. Okay, problem 4. Now, we couldn't do this in the review with the wider front. Now with the narrower front matching the rear. Okay, the first bit was definitely easier. Not this rock, but now this rock the front wheels are on. This was the problem area in the review. It's going to do problem 4, I think. Again, this body's taking a beating. It's really looking worse for wear now. And remember, this is my second battery ever with it. It's going to age quickly at this rate. There we go. Oh no. This might be more of the same as in the review. Yep. All right. Quick review of the condition of this body. Yeah, front's copying it too. I'm not holding back on this. Problem 5. There we go, save that. Okay, no problem. Problem 5 measures tyre traction mostly, so that shouldn't have been a problem either. Problem 6. Ay, ay, ay. Hey, back on its wheels. For once. Well, this was an interesting experiment, and sometimes even a negative result in an experiment is a useful experiment. The more narrow track on this made things worse. The logical thing to try next is to put a wider track on the rear as well as the front. This thing came with wide and narrow wheel adapters, and I can't help but wonder whether Vanquish knew from testing that wider could just be better. There's a degree of chance in this because different courses will have different characteristics, which will see different rigs with different geometries handled differently. And so narrower might be the right answer on some courses. On these 6 problems, at least so far, with a wide front and a narrow rear, it did better than narrow and narrow. We successfully, by the skin of our teeth, oh no, we didn't do 1, we did 2 and 5. That's 2 out of 6. In the review we had 4 out of 6. Next time we're going to do wider adapters on front and rear, and we'll see if that makes a difference. I have a sneaking suspicion it may. Throw me a like if this exploration of the capabilities of the VS4-10 were interesting or useful to you. Thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT.